We do that.
say,
Yeah, we do that all the time, and it always amazes me that, because we don't really set any levels, and our average pledge is around $80.
And
So
universal participation.
80.
And making the point about universal participation, I think, is really important. You know, by that I mean, you know, for the radio station to know that, you know, people are giving something, and that you know, more people are giving rather than, you know, a few people giving at higher levels. That what we strive for is to have more members, not necessarily, you know, just hit certain numbers. I think, you know, somehow making that philosophical connection with people might be useful as well.
When I go in there, I like to have the message that your development department is taking to foundations and underwriters and sponsors, because they really know the case for KFAI in general. And so if I can just encapsulate that into like 30 seconds, then I've got some really smart words that I can say. So, you know, maybe having some little scripts that people can use to talk about the mission of the whole, that's only 15, you know, maybe 15 seconds or 30 seconds long, that you can say, okay, use one of these during every break, would be really nice.
Can I piggyback on that? Because at KVSC, we actually, in addition to having themes, we have started making books for volunteers with talking points. I don't know if you use that here, if it's relevant, but that helps with volunteers who may not be experienced. They can use those talking points, of course using their own words and tone, and so, and also having themes, like you were talking about what would happen if this you know, wasn't here. We had a Halloween theme, and then we actually make creative what do you call, skits that we run. Like, okay, you know, oh, how scary it would be if you know, if we were not here, and so tying that in with creative skits that you can run on the air, and that ties in with your point about entertainment, because actually if you can make the pledge entertaining, and that's what we try to do with those skits, I think that would be really helpful as well.
Well, we're getting close to the deadline, which was noon today. I just want to, there's a couple things I want to do. I want to make sure everyone who wanted to ask a question had a chance, and then I'm going to ask a final question of our panelists today. So, did anybody else have any things come to mind that, okay. All right, so I'm changing it up a little bit from the question I thought I'd be asking you guys. What I would like to ask you guys is, we have a really great mix at KFAI of people who've done pledge drive after pledge drive after pledge drive, and people who are doing brand new pledge drives. And I think we've touched on some great advice for folks who are coming in new and ways they can incorporate. But what about people who've been doing so many pledge drives that they feel that they, you know, that they kind of know how to do it? How can you help them feel a little bit more inspired to try new things, or break out of a pattern? How do you inject a little energy into their drive for their 58th drive?
and give them Viagra.
Yeah, exactly.
Viagra for the oldies.
And Roya, I bet you have some folks like that at KVSC who've been around a long time, as well as the new folks. And Ted, I know you do. And Roger, I don't know if you run into this in your advice with other stations, but okay. So anyone can jump in. How do you help pros who've done it a long time feel a bit more excited about it?
Just keep reminding them to stay positive.
Okay.
Stay positive, and you know, just keep things short. That's our biggest problem at Jazz 88, is that some of these guys keep too long. And say, shorten it up, shorten it up, shorten it up. You know, just remind people of the especially on radio, and we get the, you know, I mean, just people who don't listen to what they're listening to on radio. That's my biggest complaint. Is that people keep calling us, go, this is my biggest. People call and go, how come you don't get the phone number at all? We're going, how many times do I have to give the phone number? You know, it's my theory is on radio and music is that we always get the people who call, and this has to do with this music. We get people who go, you never gave the name of that song. It's like, my theory is you give the name of a song in the beginning, in the middle, at the end, and you still have people calling you, asking you. It's like, come on. But same thing with the phone number. So my thing is if you really get into that, so just keep things short, happy, positive, keep that positive attitude about it. And we just
Well,
ask people
as far as the pros, it's really a difficult question to answer because you are trying to change people and who have their ways, and that is a challenge. But what I think might be helpful is to have themes that they can tie into, so that it breaks up their routine, breaks up the way they talk about things. Like when I will give you, when I gave the example of the Halloween theme, so that people, ask people to say what they always say, but tie it into, things becoming scary or spooky, if this or that doesn't exist. Or giving one time we had the theme of when it was political, presidential elections, vote for public radio or community radio, so that, the pros would have to change how they say things. That's one way I can think of, is to just give them some creative tools that they can work with.
Be a little more creative with it.
Right.
And Ted, if I understood you correctly, it sounds like you give pretty close to after their show or very nearly feedback. Or during their show you're giving them feedback about...
I try to constantly give them feedback.
Okay.
All the time.
How does that...
Do
they just expect
they
that?
do, because we've worked together so long.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
So we're all pretty close-knit. We all know each other's personality by now, so they don't get too mad at me.
We have a really great group of volunteers
so,
that are producers for other shows, so they're there to do exactly that.
We've all worked there long
Same
enough
phone
that
number, blah blah blah.
we all know each other's personalities by now, so I know what not to say and what to say without getting them too mad at me. So it's easy to do.
Well, given a 7-minute pledge break,